The San Joaquin River (San Joaquin) is the longest river of Central California in the United States. The 366-mile-long river starts in the High Sierra Nevada, and flows through the rich agricultural region of the northern San Joaquin Valley before reaching Suisun Bay at San Francisco Bay, and the Pacific Ocean, an important source of irrigation water as well as a wildlife corridor. The San Joaquin is among the most heavily dammed and diverted of California's rivers. People have inhabited the San Joaquin Valley for more than 8,000 years, and it was long one of the major population centers of pre-Columbian California. Starting in the late 18th century, successive waves of explorers, then settlers, mainly Spanish and American, emigrated to the San Joaquin Basin, first exploiting then driving out the indigenous tribes. The newcomers quickly appropriated the rich natural and hydrologic resources of the watershed for use in farms and cities, but found themselves plagued by flood and drought. Because of the uniform topography of the San Joaquin Valley, floods once transformed much of the lower river into a huge inland sea. In the 20th century, many levees and dams were built on the San Joaquin and all of its major tributaries. These engineering works changed the fluctuating nature of the river forever, and cut off the Tulare Basin from the rest of the San Joaquin watershed, once habitat for hundreds of thousands of spawning salmon and millions of migratory birds. Today the river is subject to tremendous water supply, navigation and regulation works by various federal agencies which have dramatically reduced the flow of the river since the 20th century. Name: the river was called many different names. At times different parts of the river were known by different names. The present name of the river dates to 1805 to 1808, when Spanish explorer Gabriel Moraga was surveying east from Mission San Jose in order to find possible sites for emission. Moraga named a tributary of the river for St. Wa'ഃkiːn, husband of St. Anne and father of Mary, the mother of Jesus. The name Moraga chose was later applied to the entire river. It was in common use by 1810. In 1827, Jedediah Smith wrote in his journal that an unknown group of Native Americans called the river the Petcatry, a name which is listed as an official variant in the U.S. Geological Survey Geographic Names Information System. In the Mono language, the river is called typically Hhuu, which means important, a great river. An earlier name for the lower section of the San Joaquin was Rio de San Francisco, which was the name Father Juan Crespi gave to the river he could see entering the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta from the south. A member of the Pedro Fages party in 1772, Crespi's vantage point was the hilltops behind modern San Francisco. Another early name was Rio San Juan Bautista, the origin of which is unknown. Course: the river's source is located in the Ansel Adams Wilderness, in the south-central Sierra Nevada at the confluence of three major affluents. The Middle Fork, which rises from Thousand Island Lake at almost 10,000 feet above sea level, the smaller North Fork, which starts 1.8 miles southeast of Mount Lyell, and the South Fork, which flows through Florence Lake and begins at Martha Lake in Kings Canyon National Park. The Middle Fork is usually considered part of the main stem. For the mountainous alpine headwaters, the San Joaquin flows generally south into the foothills of the Sierra, passing through 4 hydroelectric dams. It eventually emerges from the foothills at what was once the town of Millerton, the location of Friant Dam since 1942, which forms Millerton Lake. Below Friant Dam, the San Joaquin flows west-southwest out into the San Joaquin Valley, the southern part of the Great Great Central Valley, passing north of Fresno, with most of its water diverted into aqueducts. The river frequently runs dry in a 150-mile section. This lack of river water begins in the 60 miles between Fryen Dam and Mendota, where it is only replenished by the Delta-Mendota Canal and the Fresno Slough. When the Kings River is flooding from Mendota, the San Joaquin swings northwest, passing through many different channels, some natural and some man-made. Northeast of Dos Palos, it is only joined by the Fresno and Chowchilla rivers when they reach flood stage. 50 miles downstream, the Merced River empties into an otherwise dry San Joaquin. The majority of the river flows through quiet agricultural bottomlands, and as a result its meandering course manages to avoid most of the urban areas and cities in the San Joaquin Valley. About 11 miles west of Modesto, the San Joaquin meets its largest tributary, the Tuolumne, near Vanales. It is joined by another major tributary, the Stanislaus River. The river passes between Manteca and Tracy, where a pair of distributaries, the Old River and Middle River, split off from the main stem just above the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, a huge inverted river delta formed by sediment deposits of the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers. About 40 miles from the mouth, the river draws abreast to the western flank of Stockton, one of the basin's largest cities. From here to the mouth, the river is dredged as part of a navigation project, the Stockton Deep Watership Channel, past the head of tide. Amid the many islands of the delta, the San Joaquin is joined by two more tributaries, the Calaveras River and the larger Mocolumne. The river grows to almost 5,000 feet wide before ending at its confluence with the Sacramento River in Antioch, forming the head of Suisun Bay. The combined waters from the two rivers then flow west through the Carquinez Strait and San Francisco Bay into the Pacific. Discharge. The natural annual discharge of the San Joaquin before agricultural development is believed to have been between 6 to 7.9 million acre-feet, equaling a flow of roughly 8,300 to 10,900 cu-foot per second. Some early estimates even range as high as 14 million acre-feet, or more than 19,300 cu-foot per second. The numerous tributaries of the San Joaquin, the Fresno, Chowchilla, Merced, Tuolumne, Mariposa Creek, Calaveras, Mocolumne, and others, flowed freely across alluvial floodplains to join the river. All of the major tributaries of the river originate in the Sierra Nevada. Most of the streams that start in the Coast Range are intermittent, and contribute little to the flow of the San Joaquin. During the winter, spring, and early summer, storms and snow melt swell the river. In 1914, before the development of major dams and irrigation diversions, the California Department of Engineering estimated the river's flow in full flood at 325,000 cu-foot per second. In late summer and autumn, there is little water left over to replenish stream flow. Historically, groundwater seepage from Tulare Lake maintained a significant base flow in the river during the dry months. Some accounts suggest over 50%. The present conditions of the San Joaquin River at Fryen Dam, the average discharge was 324 cu-foot per second, or 0.23 per million acre-feet per year. The highest average discharge between 1941 and 2015 was in 1983, when the discharge was 4,385 cu-foot per second, with an average of those years of 879 cu-foot per second. The water temperature ranged from 7 Celsius in February 2006 to a high of 22.8 C on October 4, 2014. This range is less extreme than the temperatures below Vanales, where the range is from 2 Celsius on December 26, 1987 to 35.5 C on August 9, 1990. The river typically ends above the Mendota Pool. Larger flows in the fall may make it possible for the river to extend further towards the ocean, but for the last several years, this is a rare occurrence. The water is largely held behind Front Dam. The typical monthly flow of the San Joaquin River near the Sac Dam is 0. There have been seepage concerns below this part of the river, so current flows are restricted below the Sac Dam. The present annual flow of the San Joaquin River near Vinales is about 5,110 cu/ft per second, or 4.5 million acre-feet per year, according to USGS stream gauge number 11,303,500 at Vinales, 78 miles above Suisun Bay and 2.6 miles below the mouth of the Stanislaus River. The average discharge of the San Joaquin River between 1924 and 2011 was 4,525 cu/ft per second, or 3.3 million acre-feet per year. The highest recorded annual mean was 21,280 cu/ft per second, 15.4 million acre-feet, in 1983, while the lowest was 575 cu/ft per second, 416,000 acre-feet, in 1977. The maximum peak flow occurred on December 9, 1950 at 79,000 cu/ft per second, and a low flow of 30 cu/ft per second was recorded on August 10, 1961. San Joaquin River monthly discharges at Vinales. Geology. In a geologic context, the San Joaquin River can be divided into two major segments. The upper 97 miles above Front Dam in the Sierra is characterized as a steep gradient, rocky mountain stream. Over millions of years, the upper San Joaquin, as well as the upper reaches of most of its tributaries, have eroded enormous amounts of rock and sediment from the mountains. Most of the Sierras are underlain by granitic igneous and metamorphic rock dating back to the Mesozoic era. In addition, many of the San Joaquin's tributaries flow across the foothills region of metamorphosed volcanic rock, more famously known as the Mother Lode Gold Belt. The 268 miles lower part of the river, in sharp contrast, is a meandering stream flowing over Cenozoic alluvial deposits, which together comprise the flat floor of the Central Valley. The tremendous volume of sediments that underlie the lower San Joaquin River ranges from 6 to 9.5 miles deep, with distance to bedrock generally increasing in a northerly direction. Prior to the uplift of the California coast ranges, more than 20,000 feet of sediments were deposited at the foot of the Sierras by tidal activity, and the ancestral San Joaquin and its tributaries flowed west over this alluvial plain to the sea, dumping their own sediments onto the marine deposits. Compressional forces along the boundary of the North American and Pacific plates between 2-4 Ma resulted in the uplift of the coast ranges, creating an enclosed basin today known as the Central Valley, and resulted in the San Joaquin's present path to the sea. Because of its highly permeable nature, the San Joaquin River's valley is underlain by one of the largest aquifers in the western United States. The aquifer underlying the San Joaquin River and Tulare Basin is estimated to hold nearly 686 million acre-feet of water, of which about half can be pumped economically or is clean enough for human use. The aquifer receives in excess of 1,600,000 acre-feet of inflow per year, mostly from precipitation and irrigation water seepage. Concentration of chloride and other minerals generally increases from east to west across the basin.